Today, I'll be talking about Alfred Adler and his approach to individual psychology. Adler was a pioneering psychologist who emphasized the importance of understanding each person as a whole, considering their unique experiences and motivations. His work helps us explore how individuals strive for personal growth and overcome feelings of inferiority. Let's dive deeper into his ideas and see how they apply to psychology today. Alfred Adler's individual psychology is a foundational theory in counseling and psychotherapy that helps us understand human personality, behavior, motivation, and psychological adjustment. Adler initially worked alongside Freud but eventually parted ways because he disagreed with Freud's focus on unconscious sexual drives. Instead, Adler emphasized that people are primarily motivated by their social interests, goal-directed behavior, and their feelings of inferiority and superiority. He believed that we're constantly striving to find significance and meaning in our lives, which shapes how we think, act, and relate to others. This perspective shifts the focus from unconscious instincts to the importance of our social connections and personal goals. Alfred Adler's theory of individual psychology highlights that each person is unique and must be understood as a whole, rather than breaking them down into separate parts like mind, body, and behavior. Adler believed that feeling inferior is a fundamental part of being human. Everyone experiences moments of weakness or inadequacy. These feelings aren't just negative, they actually serve as a starting point for personal growth. Adler viewed humans as social, purposeful, and goal-directed beings who have the ability to make choices and change throughout their lives. Unlike Freud, who focused heavily on past experiences, Adler emphasized the influence of future goals on behavior. According to him, people actively shape their personalities through the decisions they make and their relationships with others. A central idea in Adler's theory is the movement from feelings of inferiority toward a sense of superiority. But this doesn't mean trying to be better than others, rather, it's about becoming more capable, competent, and complete as individuals. This drive for superiority reflects a healthy motivation for self-improvement and personal development. Let's talk about two major concepts in Adler's theory. First, inferiority feelings. Adler believed that everyone starts life feeling inferior because as children, we're naturally small, dependent, weak, and just can't survive on our own. These feelings are actually very normal and important because they push us to grow, learn, and get better. For example, a child who struggles to speak clearly might feel different from others, and that feeling motivates them to work harder to improve. Now, the second concept is the inferiority complex. This happens when those feelings of inferiority become too intense and overwhelming. Instead of motivating growth, they actually hold a person back. Someone with an inferiority complex might feel helpless, inadequate, or socially withdrawn. For instance, a teenager who stutters badly might avoid speaking altogether out of shame. This shows how the inability to manage these feelings can lead to psychological struggles rather than personal development. Now, let's look at other concepts in Adler's theory. First, superiority striving. This is the idea that everyone is motivated to overcome feelings of inferiority by striving for success, mastery, competence, and achievement. It's important to understand that this striving for superiority isn't about arrogance or trying to be better than others. Instead, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. When this striving is healthy, it leads to personal growth and self-improvement. But if it becomes unhealthy, it can result in domination, aggression, or overcompensation, where someone tries too hard to cover up their insecurities. Next is compensation. This means that when people have certain weaknesses or limitations, they try to make up for these by developing strengths in other areas. For example, a child who has hearing loss might focus on excelling in drawing or academics. This kind of compensation is healthy and helps individuals adjust in positive ways. Finally, there's overcompensation, which is an unhealthy form of adjustment. Here, people try to hide their feelings of inferiority by acting overly powerful or superior. For instance, someone with low self-esteem might become controlling, aggressive, or boastful to mask their insecurities. This kind of behavior doesn't truly help them grow but rather creates more problems. So, these concepts show how people deal with feelings of inferiority differently, either in healthy or unhealthy ways. Now, let's talk about social interest. This idea is central to Adler's view of mental health. Social interest refers to a person's care for others, their willingness to cooperate, their sense of belonging to a community, and their social responsibility. Adler believed that a person's mental health largely depends on their ability to connect with society. A psychologically healthy individual focuses on asking, "How can I contribute?" rather than, "How can I dominate?" This shift in mindset is crucial, especially in counseling, because it encourages empathy and collaboration. Moving on to lifestyle, this concept describes the unique way each person thinks, behaves, solves problems, and relates to others. Our lifestyle develops early in childhood and is shaped by factors like family experiences, the parenting style we grew up with, our birth order, and other social experiences. Essentially, lifestyle becomes our personal style of living. For example, two children with the same disability may end up with very different lifestyles depending on the level of family support they receive. This shows how early influences play a big role in shaping how we approach life. Now, let's talk about birth order and how it influences personality development. Adler believed that the position in which a child is born within the family can shape key aspects of their personality. For example, firstborn children often take on a lot of responsibility, they tend to be achievement-oriented and naturally step into leadership roles. Second-born children, on the other hand, are frequently competitive and ambitious, always striving to keep up or surpass those who came before them. The youngest child in a family often shows traits like being more dependent on others and seeking attention, while only children might develop differently. They are often quite mature for their age, perfectionistic, and socially sensitive because they don't have siblings to interact with regularly. It's important to remember that these tendencies aren't absolute rules, but they give us valuable insight into understanding behavior and personality development through this lens. According to Adler, psychological distress arises when certain negative patterns take hold. First, if feelings of inferiority become excessive, they can seriously impact a person's well-being. When a person's social interest weakens, meaning their connection and concern for others diminishes, distress grows. An unhealthy lifestyle also plays a role, where habits and behaviors harm rather than help. Avoiding responsibility is another key factor. When people refuse to face their challenges, it worsens their mental state. Finally, instead of growing in a balanced way, some people overcompensate, trying to cover up their struggles in unhealthy manners. As a result, the individual becomes self-focused, fearful, and disconnected from others, which only deepens their distress. The primary goal of counseling based on Adler's theory is to help the individual become both socially useful and psychologically healthy. This approach focuses on reducing feelings of inferiority that can hold people back, while building their confidence along with developing healthy, meaningful goals for their lives. A key part of this process is improving social interest, which means fostering a genuine sense of connection and contribution to the community. In Adlerian counseling, the role of the counselor is multifaceted. They are supportive, encouraging, collaborative, educational, and goal-oriented. Rather than directing or commanding, the counselor works alongside the client to help them understand mistaken beliefs, identify patterns of inferiority, recognize unhealthy lifestyle choices, and develop new, healthier goals. A key part of this process is strengthening the client's social interest, which is central to Adlerian theory. Importantly, the counselor is not authoritarian. Instead, they act more like a guide and encourager, fostering a positive and hopeful environment. Encouragement isn't just one aspect of Adlerian counseling, it's truly at the heart of the approach. Some of the strengths of this method include its strong focus on social relationships and its practical application across various settings. It's especially relevant in school counseling, parent guidance, and rehabilitation counseling. Overall, this approach emphasizes positivity and encouragement to promote meaningful change in clients' lives.